Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our Teach It Forward session today. I'm so excited to have our panelist presenter joining us. My name's Katie. I work for GradeCam, and we have Celeste joining us from Fuji's. So we're going to be talking about changing the conversation about student learning, and the bit.ly link for our presentation today is in the bottom left corner. So you're welcome to click on that link and follow along. And this session is being recorded, so you will get a copy of it if you've registered. You're either live with us now or you're going to watch it later. So if you haven't joined one of our Teach It Forward sessions before, this is our typical format. So we usually talk a little bit about our panelists' goals for using Gradient in the first place, what their why was for using the tools. We get to hear a little bit about Gradient in action in different school and district settings. And then we get to hear about any lessons learned along the way. So to get us started today, we have Celeste joining us. She's from the Fuji's family in Georgia, and she's going to be sharing her school's journey. This is just their first year getting started, about how they wanted to use Gradient and how that sort of adapted over time. So I'm going to stop talking and let Celeste take it over. If you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat and I'll monitor those along the way. So Celeste, go ahead and take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Thanks, Katie. I am a member of Fuji's family. Our school is located in Georgia, and the majority of our students are English language learners. Our school is designed to serve refugee and newcomer students. And we've been using Gradient for English and math in grades 6 through 12. The reason why we chose to go with Gradient is to help us see a bit deeper than the data that we were getting from state level tests or some of the other larger standardized testing. Those tools were great for giving us a big picture, but we really needed to have a more granular understanding of what our students had mastered and where their gaps in learning were, especially given our population. We have a large number of students who come to us with some sort of disruption in formal education. So although we are a middle school, we use a lot of lower elementary assessments to dive a bit deeper into really foundations of learning, and Gradient has helped us to keep track of student progress over time. It's empowered our teachers to really efficiently progress monitor on specific skills and standards. So rather than looking at the test as a whole or larger buckets within tests that typical standardized assessments give us, it's helped us to really name the different skills that we need to work on and then to watch those over time. Finally, especially as we head into testing season, Gradient's been a great way for us to predict how our students will do on higher stakes testing and help us to really be mindful about what we prioritize as we head into testing season.
And Celeste, just to stop there, what did you use before Gradient to try to do these things? Or were you kind of just at a loss scrambling for what you could find?
You know, whatever teachers came up with on the fly is what we were using before.
Okay. And that's a lot of us. I know a lot of us are in that boat of like, you just made whatever you have work. So until you have a system that brings it all together, you know, you're just kind of getting by.
Yeah. So for this first year, we knew that teachers' plates were already very full and we didn't want to add to stress for them. So we intentionally went in with a pretty low lift in terms of teacher expectations for Gradient. We introduced it to them in professional development over summer before the school year started, but just offered it as a tool that they were welcome to use, provided some videos if they wanted it. And we let teachers know that as school leadership, we would set up interim exams using the curriculum that they were already using to create those exams. As the academic leadership team, we went in and we set up the Gradient platform so that they could score the test through there at the end of each semester. So the first time that we used Gradient, it was a big lift. It was a big transition in thinking for the teachers because they had previously, used the test that was part of the curriculum, or they like adjusted it for their students however they saw fit. But this time the test was sort of set and we were using it as it was written. There was a lot of just grappling and coming to terms with the format. Maybe not even the gradient format, but just the test format. Understanding that. And then, there's a big learning curve on which we did paper for everything. So like which bubble sheet, how do you get to the right bubble sheet? Oh my gosh, we've printed off an entire school of the wrong bubble sheet. So just kind of figuring out those ins and outs the first time. And really reminding teachers that this was a learning process. We didn't expect it to go perfectly. Using this more as an opportunity for us to all learn together and come around this tool in a way that would make us stronger. So after that first time going through, what was amazing was to see, you can see the chart there, that's a standards analysis, for teachers to be able to start clicking into the reports and really see a breakdown of student performance by standard. This one was one of my favorite classes. Most of our teachers were under the impression that all of the kiddos in this class were performing at grade level. And so as you can see, when we look at the standards, we see that kiddos aren't probably performing at grade level, at least not on this assessment. And so we were able to use this tool to really dig deeper with the teachers and think about like, what are the priority standards and what are the standards that are going to drive additional learning? And then begin to think about, what do we want to reteach whole group versus what do we want to teach in just small groups or individually with students? And after that process, as we headed into round 2, we really encouraged teachers to look at the blueprints for our state test. We found that there was a really big gap in understanding how the state tests were created. Not that any single test determines like how great a kid is, but the more we understand the test, the better we can do to prepare kiddos for them. And then we also really encourage teachers, we set up a platform that for them to be able to submit tests that or questions that they thought would be helpful for the next round of testing. And then through that season between the first interim and the second one, we just revisited on a pretty regular basis what teachers could expect to see the next time around.
It's really amazing to hear how much collaboration there was between like leadership and teachers to build the assessments that were going to give you the right information or better information than you had. How did you guys get that process going? It sounds like you started off with saying, hey, this is just a learning tool. So it sounds like you set them up for success and not demanding that it be a certain way, but how did you get that to work? Like the assessment design, changing that up?
With all things, I wish that I had a magic wand and a time machine because we needed so much more time to really dig into this together. Our school is set up so that we have content team meetings every other week, and we have a day set aside each month for professional development. So we just kept this as one of the agenda points that we would come back to in those meetings. My guess is that teachers didn't feel like we had a lot of collaboration just because it's such a shift. And we knew that going in, we wanted to be really intentional about providing space to have conversation, to feel the yuck that comes along sometimes with change, and then to try to move forward together, hoping that the teachers really can take ownership, knowing that if it is something that's forced from the outside in, it's not going to go over well, it's not going to serve students well. So we really wanted to be intentional about coming alongside of one another in those moments that we do have set aside, since we don't have a time machine. Coming back and talking about this every opportunity that we had.
Nice. So you've touched on some of these, but can you share some of the lessons learned, like what you'd like to pass on to other folks that are on a similar journey, or what you plan to do in the future?
Yeah. The first thing is carving out more time. Like we had some dedicated time, but I just wish that we would have had more or been intentional about creating even more space for us to walk through this together with teachers early on so they understood how to use the platform themselves. I think that we could have gotten more teachers excited and using Gradient in that first semester if we would have dedicated a little bit more time to here's how you actually set up a quiz. So secondly, our students and staff really liked the level of detail that they could see from the standards analysis. Again, we brushed over it at the beginning of the year, but we didn't dive really deep into it, not wanting to overwhelm people. And I wonder if we had started there, if it would have been more helpful so that everyone understood what they were going to get on the other side of this round of testing. And then finally, again, everything's about starting earlier. We would have started earlier with helping teachers to use GradeCam weekly in their classes. You know, after the first round of testing, when they saw what GradeCam could do or Gradient could do, teachers were coming and saying, wait, I can't wait to use this. Can you show me how to set this up? Can you show me what to do? So it was great to see their excitement. If we could have gotten that earlier and offered that to them earlier, that would have been fantastic.
Nice. Well, I think that's all we have for today's session. I'm not seeing questions come in, so I'll wait a little bit and we can always stop recording. And if folks have questions for you, they can answer them. To give people an idea of how much you accomplished, Celeste, when did you start Gradient till now? Like how much time has gone by?
We did our first official round of testing with Gradient right before winter break, so December.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of assessments. So you had, as a team, kind of built those assessments to give teachers that first look of what the data could be. And then your second round, when did your second round hit?
We did the second round about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Wow.
So not very long ago. And when we're talking about doing like the first round and the second round, whole school assessment, almost like state testing, everyone gets to play. So rather than starting with small pockets, we just went all the way in with all of the kids.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate hearing your story. Thanks for sharing the bumps along the road as in addition to the successes. I'll go ahead and stop the recording here and see if anybody has questions they want to ask. For those folks that haven't joined us before, again, we have more of these Teach It Forward sessions coming. So we have one more round in May. It's going to be panelists talking about how they get creative with using gradient assessments. So many of us use it for multiple choice in English language arts, math, and the social studies subject areas, but there's a lot of teachers out there in other subject areas using gradient in creative ways and going beyond multiple choice tests just to see different authentic responses from students and how they can demonstrate their learning in different ways. So check those out if you're interested. And hopefully you've been seeing badges pop up to celebrate your usage of Gradient. We've launched that in this year, I think in January is when we started. So we recognize you, we appreciate you. We know you're doing a lot out there. So we wanted to reward and encourage you with those badges. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. We have our support email there and phone number. Thanks again for joining us. Let me go ahead and stop the recording.